Hi, in this demo I've set up the simplest possible table view application. We have a navigation controller as our root view controller, as our first view controller in the scene. And then the root view controller is a table view controller for which I've created a class called table view controller. And then I have another view controller out here, which is just a generic UI view controller. There is no underlying class for it. The point of this demonstration is to show you that while the look and feel in iOS 7 will have changed, there are very few programming details that have changed. One specific detail has changed, and it actually helps us quite a bit with table views in storyboard mode. So let's look closer at what we do inside this table view controller to get it to work. First of all, I have set up a single property, which is our content array. And this is going to contain the rows, the information for the rows of our table view. All of the table view controller code is going to look really similar to what we've seen before. In it with style, we don't really do anything here. But in view.did_load, I'm setting up the content array as an array with objects 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could also use the array constant syntax. I could have done this, for example. Self.content is equal to, and then set up an array constant, 1, 2, and so forth. And doing it this way, I don't, let's see, we missed, it's still an array of NS strings, so this has to be done. And so forth. So we can do the array constant syntax, or we can just set it up as an array with objects. I'm going to leave it this way, but leave this commented out so you can see the syntax in detail. Now, so with content array set up, the number of sections in the table view, again, is going to be 1, just as before. And then the table view number of rows in section is going to be the count of our content array, just as it was before. Self-erode index path, we do exactly the same thing that we did before in previous versions of Xcode and previous versions of iOS. The self.content array object and index path from indexPath.row. The cell identifier is by default cell, and just as we did before, we need to go into the storyboard, and in our prototype cell, and we'll zoom in on that, in our prototype cell, we need to set that cell's identifier to cell, or whatever you set it up in the table view controller needs to match in the identifier field. So by default, that's cell. And it's the object at the index from self.content. Now, the conditional editing override is the same. The editing override is the same. The rearranging override is the same. And conditional rearranging is the same. Below this pragma, navigation, things start to look a little bit different. Before, the table view did select row at index path method was being used, and this was the appropriate method if we were in a nib file setting. Now, they just give you the prepare for segue sender method, which is the appropriate method to use in a storyboard setting. So the message is clear. Use storyboards going forward, not nib files. So what do we need to do? And of course, I have changed this code a little bit, but the boilerplate messages are the same. It says in the storyboard application, you'll often want to do a little preparation before navigation. This is because the segue instantiates the destination view controller. So we get the new view controller by using segue destination view controller. So I'm getting a UI view controller instance of detail view called detail view controller with segue destination view controller. If we were using a new view controller subclass, we would need to take segue destination view controller and cast it to that subclass's type, as we've seen before. And then I just pass the selected object to the new view controller. Well, what do we want to pass? We want to pass the sender's title labels text. So the sender's text label text. In order to get to the text label field of the sender, I need to cast the sender as a UI table view cell type, which is what I do here. So I've set up a UI table view cell called cell, and I've cast sender to UI table view cell type. And then I can say the detail view controller's title is equal to the cell's text label dot text. And that's it. So now we're done. The only difference here is in our navigation. We're not using at all the did select row at index path. We are using prepare for segue sender. So now this is what a table view looks like by default in iOS 7. I have my content array here as the rows, and then when I tap on a row, my title view is set to that row's text. This is the back button, and notice that this back button is adopts that iOS 7 button look and feel. So anything I select, the title view will be set to that, and everything is working identically the way it worked in a previous version of iOS. The only difference is the look and feel is different, and the idea of what we're going to be doing with table views is that we're using them in a storyboard context rather than a nib file context. Thank you very much.